What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Hunt G4 YouTube channel. So today we're going to be talking broadhead. So hunting season, it's almost June right now. The tag results here in Oregon are going to come out in the next couple weeks. Everybody's kind of starting to gear up for hunting season. We're seeing a lot of people come in getting strings, getting new arrows, and one of the biggest questions we get asked is what broadhead should I shoot, or what broadhead flies well, or lots of different questions on broadhead. So I'm going to go over kind of the three different main styles of broadheads that are available, kind of the benefits of them, and then what you can do to make sure that your broadheads are flying and shooting accurately. So first off is the choice of broadhead. So the most popular forever has been the fixed 3-blade head. This is one of my personal favorites. It's the QAD Exodus. This is our best seller for sure. It's extremely tough. It leaves good blood, very sharp. I've never lost a blade out of one of these, even shooting through animals and hitting rocks, or they're just incredibly tough, and they are a replaceable blade. But the way that their blade locks in, like I said, I've never broke or lost one. The benefits of a fixed blade are, again, toughness, and with that 3-blade, you get a pretty good wound channel. They put a lot of blood on the ground. The downside that a lot of people don't like about a fixed blade is they say they don't fly well. And when people are talking about broadhead flight, the broadhead itself has nothing to do with it. Unless the broadhead is physically bent and wobbling, because that will cause all sorts of issues. But if the arrow's spinning true with the broadhead, the flight of the broadhead is going to come down to the tune of your bow. So we do a lot of tuning here, shooting through paper. If that arrow's coming out and kicking tail high, tail left, tail right, tail whatever, the broadhead is going to catch wind and plane in the opposite direction. So they do require sometimes some manipulation to the bow and or rest to get them to fly with your field points. And that's important not only for accuracy, but also for penetration. If that arrow is hitting the animal at an angle, there's going to be a massive loss of the transfer of energy into that animal. If that arrow hits going perfectly straight, it's going to be very efficient in penetrating hide and flesh and bone and whatever else. So that's a great option. It's kind of a do-it-all head. It's extremely tough. If you get into a heavy bone or something like that it's going to do pretty well on you. The next option we sell a lot of here in Oregon, and they're becoming more and more popular, is a single blade, single bevel broadhead. So these are the Kudu points. There's a lot of companies that make heads like this. This is actually a local company. They're extremely tough. Let's say you get into like the scapula on an elk in particular. This is going to be your best bet of getting through heavy bone. There's a lot of factors, again, that go into penetration in terms of arrow weight and front of center weight and all that stuff, but these leave a very small footprint, essentially, or small wound channel going through. In bone, that's a great thing. The downside to these is generally they leave very little blood on the ground. Now the animals will still die, but I can tell you I have a lot of customers that come in that are shooting these and they say, man, if I didn't watch that bull fall over, I don't know if I would have found him because I was following pin drops of blood. Depending where you hunt, like here in Western Oregon, it's very brushy. If an animal's only leaving little drops of blood, like there's probably 10 layers of grass and ferns and whatever until that blood actually gets to the ground. So if it's only leaving little drops and it's not right on one of the surface leaves or blades of grass that you're looking at, you might not see that blood. Especially our elk here, they're Roosevelts. They got a lot of fat on them, thick hides. These holes tend to seal up pretty quickly. Now, obviously, if you just drill one right in the heart, it's probably going to be fine. But if you get like a high lung shot or something, that animal is going to die. But your tracking skills are going to have to be pretty on point because you're probably not going to be following much of a blood trail. They do fly well. There's not as much surface area as a fixed blade to kind of plane as much, but the tuning process is still important to make sure that these are flying true with your field points. The third option, which there's a ton of debate about, is expandables or mechanicals. These have been only legal in Oregon since 2019. So a lot of guys in Oregon are very hesitant to move to them, and there's not a lot of people with experience with them, but they've been legal in just about every other state for like 30 years. And, for deer in particular, I would never hesitate to shoot one of these. The benefits with these is when they're closed up, they literally fly like a field point. These are the beasts. We also sell the Grim Reapers. I've used both and killed animals with them, and the wound channels are unreal. Even with like the QAD here, it's a small little you get a hole like that. It's not bad. With these, it's like a hatchet wound. Like you can literally fit your hand through the entry and exit hole. On elk, for a long time, people have always said, don't shoot mechanicals. You won't get any penetration. They're too heavy boned, all that. But there's never really been any data to support that claim. And recently, if you listen to the Hunt Backcountry podcast that XO Gear puts on, forget the guy's name, but he owns a shop down in New Mexico, and he's taken data from 5 years over customers coming in that have wounded animals and not recovered them. And it's like shot distance, broadhead type, arrow weight, and draw weight, I believe, are like the 4 data points that he's collecting. And in every category or every distance, so it's like 20 to 29 yards, 30 to 39 yards, 40 to 49 yards. In every category, the recovery rate is higher with a mechanical. So say what you want about them. I think it depends on where you miss. If you miss forward and high in the scapula or in, like in the elbow basically, your best bet's gonna be a fixed blade or a single bevel. If you miss back or high or low, you're gonna have a much better chance with a 2 or 2.3 inch cutting diameter of nicking a vital organ or an artery, or just making a big enough hole that they lose so much blood, they slow down and you can actually, they'll bed down and you can get up and get another arrow in them. I killed a bull with a Grim Reaper 2 years ago with a mechanical, and it was great. I got full pass through, tons of blood. He died within sight. I recently got back from Australia where I shot a lot of stuff, or at a lot of stuff, and I shot these beasts and they were pretty crazy. Like you could see vital organs through the entry and exit hole. These are a little bit different in the sense that the blades are actually on a spring, and it's a stout spring. It says on here that the blades deploy at 940 miles an hour, but they get really good results going through bone, especially like ribs, because when you shoot, let's say you go between 2 ribs, those blades will actually cave in like this and get through, and then they pop back out on the other side. There are some other broadheads that have similar technology, like the Severs, where the blades are actually on a swivel, but a lot of guys say that if one of those blades hits a bone and gets pushed in, it does not redeploy afterwards. So now you've got less cutting surface going through that animal. So one thing with mechanicals is that when these blades are recessed, and some have collars, some like these have a little spring that it clips in. If you hunt really brushy country like Western Oregon here, if one of these blades clips like a twig or basically anything bigger than a piece of grass, and that blade deploys mid-flight, you're gonna have some pretty horrible arrow flight and not very good penetration most likely. So if you're in an area where you hunt really thick brushy stuff, as long as an animal is, obviously I'm not gonna shoot through like a tree, but if there's just some like salmon berries or a little bit of vine maple, just some leaves, and that animal's only, as long as he's closer to me, closer to the brush than my arrow is long, I don't really have a huge problem trying to send a fixed blade through that, obviously within reason. I'm not condoning taking unclear shots. I'm just saying you can get away with it. With one of these, with a mechanical, I would be pretty hesitant to shoot through anything, like I said, bigger than pretty much a blade of grass. So that is something to take into consideration with a mechanical is where you're hunting, and the kind of the terrain and brush factor, I guess you could say. So you can run both. Like I actually ran both fixed and mechanicals in my quiver. I know the mechanicals are going to fly well. They're going to hit with my field points, and so I make sure that my fixed blade and my field points are hitting well, and then obviously I check my mechanical. Most come with a practice head, so that you can shoot that and not ding up one of your broadheads. But I've never had an issue. If my fixed blade is shooting with my field point, that's about as good an indication that your bow is tuned as there is. So you can run, three fixed blades and 2 mechanicals in your quiver, and kind of depending on where you're setting up, choose the broadhead for that. I will say the one thing that I've noticed with the mechanicals on the animals that I've shot is the body language of them afterwards. They don't have that like kick and then sprint away. They kind of look more like they got hit by a rifle. It's that kind of like stutter step as they're running, like it physically traumatizes them. And so, yeah, they're pretty devastating. And I personally am going to run these beasts and probably these QADs this year in my quiver. And it's like I said, situational, but you know, I'll have both tuned up and ready to go. So the nice thing about these, like I mentioned, is they pretty much fly like your field points. Now it's still important, again, with penetration to make sure that your bow is tuned and that arrow is flying well, but you can pretty much just screw these on and go shoot them. Like, they're gonna fly with your field points, probably out to, I think mine were right with them out to about 70, and then there's obviously a little more drag than a field point, so at distance they did, you know, start to drop a couple inches compared to the field points, but I had zero left-right issues with these beasts. So those are kind of your three main options. Now, obviously there's a lot of brands, there's a million different broadheads in all categories like this. We sell what we have used and stand behind. And I know, like, I've personally used these, and I know a lot of people that have used all these heads and had really good success with them. So if you're not happy with your current broadhead choice, you know, feel free, you can call the shop here. This is Hunt G4. Feel free to call the shop, ask for Kellen, that's me, and we can go over some options. If you're local here and you want to get tuned up and make sure that your broadheads are flying with your field points, we offer those services as well. So hunting season's right around the corner. You want to make sure that bow is dialed, and regardless of your choice, you want to make sure that broadhead is flying true. So thanks for watching today. Remember, hunt hard, be kind, and we'll see you next time.